Hi Flosstube, it's Arlene here. It's Thursday, May 3rd, and I was sitting here right before I hit that button to record, thinking about those of you, those Flosstubers who make videos on a regular basis, whether it's like every Tuesday or every Sunday or every whatever day, or, always on the first of the month or always on whatever. And you ever have the times where you're just not up to it, but you want to do it because, your day is your day. I know that it's been a number of weeks since I did a video, and I have wanted to do one, and I kind of set myself saying, it'd be great if I could do this before the weekend and actually not wait until this weekend. And I have all the stuff like all ready to go, and I'm not feeling the complete energy to do this, but I'm kind of hoping that once I get going, it'll be okay, and I'm going to imagine you all out there and us in a conversation, which we all know it's not really a conversation, but it is, because maybe you're talking to me when I'm talking to you, and we're just going to go with that, and you're going to send me the energy that I need, just because it's just been a long day. And yet at the same time, again, I wanted to do this today. So welcome. If you are returning, nice to see you again. If you're new, thank you for finding me. I've just been thinking a lot, especially in the last few weeks, just how much I appreciate, well, as always, the Flosstube world. Those of you that have found me and have been around with me for the year and a couple of months, that I have been a year and whatever, that I've been on Flosstube, you know that I don't just stick to cross stitch, and I know that makes me a little different in this Flosstube world, and I just really thank and appreciate those who are interested in me. I'm just gonna put it like that. So like I said, I know it's been a few weeks, and it was just really important for me to have a little check-in. At this moment, I don't feel like this is going to be a super long video. I feel like I have said that before, and I have been wrong. So you all know right now how long it is before, more than I do. We'll see together how long this is. 2 weeks from now, or just about 2 weeks from now, is going to be the Flosstube retreat here in New Jersey that I've been organizing and building up toward. And it's just been very much on my mind and part of so much that I've been working on. You know that saying, don't sweat the small stuff? Well, I sweat the small stuff. I just am so looking forward to meeting so many people, and just wanting everyone who comes to have a good time, and just working on all those pieces. Because of that, I really don't have stitching that I can show you, because just about everything I've been stitching on since my last video is things I can't show right now, but I will very much look forward to a video after the retreat that I can share a lot more, that I'm just not ready to share right now. But I do have lots of other things that I want to share with you right now, some of which are sort of retreat related and others not. I certainly know there's way more people watching this that are not coming to this retreat, may or may not be going to other retreats, or may not have the opportunity to get together with other stitchers. I don't want to take too much time to talk about that aspect of life, just to say that there's no doubt about it, it's a huge part of my life right now. So there's no doubt it's going to come out in my videos. But one thing that it has definitely given me is a distinct motivation to do something that I've needed to do for a while, which is to fully finish, to FFO, a number of the pieces that I have stitched, or you'll see where I'm going, with my WorksByABC designs. Many of you know that the I have an Etsy store. I'm doing design work, mostly cross-stitch pieces, but also some canvas work, a couple of black work pieces. And as I've been designing, I feel like I have so many ideas, and there's just no way my fingers can go as fast as my brain goes when it comes to design work. So over this year time that I've been doing this design work, there's been some pieces that have been created that have kind of piled together in various ways. For the retreat, I'm going to have a display. We'll go ahead and call it a trunk show. And it was really time to say, hey, I need to do something with this. So I've been working, and I still am. So this is only some of the finished things. This coming up weekend is another weekend that I'm going to devote to finishing off a whole bunch of other stuff. So what I wanted to show you are a few things. I ordered from American Frame some custom-sized frames. I have currently 3 pieces, although one of them isn't finished yet. So 2 of them I'm going to show you that just were sizes that were not, 8 by 10, 11 by 14 things that I could just buy a frame, and I just wanted them to look right. And that was American Frame. Danielle Stitcherista has done a review on them. I had found that company online quite some time back, had never ordered from them, but I guess I must have signed up from their email for their newsletter because I had them. When I saw her review, I was like, yeah, that's what I need to take advantage of. So first thing to show you is this is a design of mine called, well, it's fully symmetrical. I really could hold it anyway. It's called Flowers and Swirls. It was, you could sort of say, the first design of mine that I completely stitched. It wasn't fully stitched by the time this was part of my first release of designs a year ago, but I finished it during the summer. And it just needed a square frame, and it doesn't fit in a traditional square frame that I could find at a store. This brown wood was just perfect for it. I just love the way it looked. A huge thank you to Vanna, who doesn't thank Vanna in their videos. I was watching and reading her blog, watching some of her finishing videos, just getting some ideas. I'll have used some, will use more of them. And just, this is the smallest thing, but the smallest things make the biggest difference. So I did lace this as well as some other things. And the suggestion to buy upholstery thread, where everything that I've ever had a need to lace before, I was just using regular sewing thread. I don't know if I ever broke any thread, but this is the way to go, people. Upholstery thread. Thank you, Vanna, for the suggestion. I'll mention Vanna again in a minute. So that's the first framed design. No glass, because, I'll get more to that, but because of what I'll be doing with these, I didn't want to put glass on them. Although most of the stitching I have hanging around my home is framed with glass. The second one that is framed with a frame from American Frame, I showed last time the incredible gift that was given to me from Saho in Japan that she had offered to stitch model for me. She had done birds and the bees, and I was able to get what I think is just, you can see it there, the perfect frame with just like the right amount of detail. And again, it's just that kind of size that it didn't look right with any kind of traditional sized frame. So I really like the way that turned out. And like I said, there's a third one that is on deck for finishing, for lacing and all, framing for a framed piece for hopefully this weekend. I also, in my finishing weekend a couple weekends ago, and I'd mentioned or sort of asked the question, what do you think of this idea, a couple of videos ago. One needed to do something with my 4 canvas work pieces. There's all kinds of ways to deal with canvas, the kind of canvas that I'm talking about, like 18 count canvas, that, I mean, I could lace it onto boards and so on, but I have to say I'm really pleased with how these turned out. So I present to you Canvas Work 1, canvas work 2, canvas work square 1, canvas work square 2, in order, canvas work square 3, and canvas work square 4. And this really is just a pretty simple, pretty easy finishing way. This is artist canvas that you buy painted, you know, nothing fancy. This is, I sewed on, you know, you can put a needle through this kind of canvas pretty easily. So I sewed this canvas on, cut it to a certain point, fringed just a little. I think it has just the perfect effect. It allows the colors to just look great with them. So I love the way these turned out, and I think they will look really nice on a display, which is where they're all headed, like to be displayed. I also, in my finishing work, you've seen these before, but they needed a little bit more. These are 2, I guess it really doesn't matter which way I hold them. One of my patterns is called Medieval Ornaments, which has 12 squares. You could stitch the whole design as 12 squares or stitch them individually. And I had made little pillows. They always needed some sort of cording edge, and I finally got that cording edge on them. I also had another small that I finished, well, sort of finished. I knew I needed to, I didn't like the cording that was on it. I've already taken it off. It's part of the pile that I'll be working on this weekend. So I have a few more smalls to do, one more framing to do for this weekend. I also want to share, because I don't have it to physically share with you, but if you're on Instagram and you follow Saho, you may have noticed her stitching some more of my designs. I say designs, plural. She is so kind and so sweet and so generous. She, in the mail to me right now, coming across the world, are not 1, not 2, but 3 more models, my design stitched by Saho. This is what I have called the companion piece to the birds and the bees. It's pretty close to the same size, about the same colors, called Flowers, Vines, and Leaves. I think I've got it. And these 2 are part of the recent releases that were just from March. This is Flower from 1650. And this is one of the 2 designs of Lady Evelyn's Filet Lace. She did this on like a navy fabric with white thread. Looks beautiful that way. I cannot wait to get these in my hands. I know I will be doing an identical frame for this guy to go with the birds and the bees. And I will almost definitely be framing this one and still thinking about what I'm going to do with this one. So I'm looking forward to having even more of my pieces in reality. It's so thrilling to me, and thank you, Saho. You are a treasure. I so appreciate it. So more to come. I just need to share, and I had to look this up myself because I promise you it was not done on purpose. The 1-year anniversary of my Etsy store, WorksByABC, is May 19th, which is actually the weekend of the retreat that I'm running. And I promise you it was not, I didn't do that on purpose. I know that I mean, the dates played out as they did, and there was even a vote of the final dates, and it was actually sometime afterwards that I had to look this up. I knew it was a weekend in May, it was a date in May, and then when I looked it up and realized, that was kind of cool. So I'm coming up on a 1-year anniversary of this designing adventure. That's what I call it. I am looking forward to ways that I'm going to be growing, some new projects. I'm hoping will be in the works, and will be hopefully expanding in different directions in the coming time period. I had to tell myself, once I got that last set of designs out in March, I could not allow myself to focus on design work until after this retreat, that all the extra pieces of life, time, energy that I had outside of being a teacher and that side of life, all that I had left in my life had to be devoted toward what I was putting on in this retreat. Once the retreat is over, I am very much looking forward to working on my next set of designs, as well as pursuing some other projects, all related to new directions and some new pieces, and I look forward to sharing all of that with you. But on those lines, be on the lookout for some one-year anniversary pieces on my Etsy store. You know, I don't know, maybe someone could let me know this. When you favorite a shop in Etsy, do you get a notice when there is something, like when there's a new product or when there's new a notice put up? Like, I feel like I have read what favoriting a shop does, but because I don't have too many shops I've favorited, I don't know if any of the ones I have favorited have actually added to their inventory or put up a special or put up, you know, any notice. So like those of you who favorited my shop a long time ago, did you get a notice when I added to my, when I added new patterns in March? If you know, I'm just curious. So if not, just be on the lookout. I will probably set something up for in a couple of weeks, or I need to work out the details of how this. So I will have something for those in person at the retreat, with my display and my trunk show, shall we say? And I shouldn't say it that way. My trunk show that I will have at the retreat, as well as look for online at my Etsy store, WorksByABC. I'll put a link below. Ooh, but just in case you need to see that, because it's always handy, here's my mug. That's the name of my store. Please be on the lookout for that. And I'll just go ahead and mention here, because I haven't mentioned it before, when the New Jersey retreat is over, and I don't know how I'm going to deal with the letdown that comes from that, I am also going to StitchCon. So just 5 weeks later, I will get to be a part of another stitching weekend, and it'll be one that I'm not in charge of, which is a good thing. So I'm looking forward to that, and as a part of that, I am going to be sending off my WorksByABC patterns and models as a trunk show to have there, and I'm excited. I'm thrilled that Barbara at Keepsakes was interested in working with me and wanting to have me. I'm thrilled that Nicole Buckeye Stitcher helped make that happen, and I just am glad to have the opportunity to share and get the word out about myself. So, so between the New Jersey opportunity and the StitchCon opportunity, it's all that more exciting to get finished models, just to be able to share with folks. So that's a lot of my stitching news. Next thing on my list, I feel a little funny about this, but I need to just get over the feeling funny, right? I know there's plenty of Flosstubers who share gifts, and I have a couple of very sweet, kind things to share, and I always, I don't know, I feel funny sometimes. I have received a few gifts over the last few months that have meant so much, and I've kept them private. There's a couple things I've received recently that I do want to share with you, and there's all different reasons for those things. I just want folks to know that I'm the kind of person that so appreciates the sharing that goes on in this community, and I believe that everyone who does that kind of sharing feels that same way. And whether or not we choose to share in our videos, the feelings are there, and I get that. I know that. A couple videos ago, when I had a new my new patterns, as I did with all the videos when I've shared new patterns, I do a giveaway for some winners of new pattern. And so not in any way expected or needed, but Lori, one of the people who won one of my patterns, I came home to a surprise envelope, and with a stitched thank you card from her for the pattern that I sent her. Beautiful. with a lovely note inside, and a needle minder. It's a beaded, double-sided beaded, so the magnet could go on either side, and a scissor fob. And look very close, beaded. Do you all see my initials? Yeah. So sweet that she took the time to do that for me. And a needle case. Her husband makes wooden from, beautifulwoodenthings.com. I will link it below. Beautiful wooden case. And it was so kind and thoughtful of her. And I love the sharing that goes on in this community. And again, it was a giveaway. You know, this has been said before by others. You know, when you win something from a giveaway, you don't need to give back. I mean, it's appreciated. Thank you, Lori. Thank you so much. Another thing that showed up in my doorstep, although it's been a number of weeks now, I think this was literally just not like maybe right past when I did my last video, which was like a month ago. Our good friend Diana, It Is Kismet Stitches, some while back, months ago at this point, she was sharing in a video about these small wooden hoops. They're all small, that don't have the hardware, that don't have the, you know, the screw to like tighten it. This is an old way that embroidery hoops were created. And I know many people, myself included, would look at a hoop like that and say, what's the point? How you can't tighten it? Well, she was talking about them and how much she loved them and how she uses them and frankly how good they are. You know, okay, wow, learned something new. I feel like I learned something new at just about every video that I watch filmed by anybody. Well, when I was watching that video of hers, I remembered that a long time previous, someone had given me a couple of those hoops. Now, it had been given to me with a whole pile of stuff, with a bunch of it really like junk. Someone who had been at a flea market and saw a whole bunch of like sewing looking things and thought I would like it. And I had kept the embroidery hoops because they looked and they felt old. I mean, there's no other way to, they looked old, they felt old. But I know I judged them and said, what use are these? But I kept them. And so when Diana was talking about in her video, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I went and looked at them, and they were even the Duchess one. I think that's the name. And so I said, Diana, would you like them? And she was thrilled. She shared it with us a number of videos ago. And so she very kindly made me some project bags in return. And again, so not needed. I was so glad to just offer those hoops. I was glad that I had them. They had been sitting in a container of stuff for years. I just so love that I have them. But I can now say that I have some Diana made project bags. So she made me two that are the clear front kind in sort of the perfect color palette. Blues and purples are certainly, you know, one way to describe directions for me. Simple patterns, simple prints. Love these. And then when she had asked me about this, I had actually said, well, if you ever see any fabric that has like lace designs on it, and oh man, look what she found, people. She made me two bags of this style. So like the open up kind like this, of this super cool fabric that has like lace on top of it. I think that's pretty cool. So Diana, thank you so much. I am looking forward to being able to use these and show them to fellow stitchers and lace makers, actually, who I think will get a kick out of them. So I just wanted to share a bit of that kindness that was given to me. As I said before, the stitching I've been doing in the last couple weeks is all things I can't share, but I can share. So those of you who are new, in addition, many people on Flosstube, some people on Flosstube will share some of the things they do outside of cross-stitching world. Excuse me, in addition to all different types of stitching, one of the things that I do outside of cross-stitching world is bobbin lace. So some time back, I think I even did a little demonstration for you all of bobbin lace using I was working on a piece. And I did want to share that I had finished the piece of bobbin lace, so I can show you a finish of a bobbin lace piece and what I actually did with it. I may or may not have talked about it at the time, but I finished a piece of bobbin lace that I had specifically, I didn't design it, but I sized it. I knew how big to make it because I wanted to put it in my phone case. So this is a piece of bobbin lace that I was working on. I finished it. And again, I knew what I wanted, what size to do it. I now have a clear phone case. And I now have a piece of bobbin lace with me everywhere I go. Most people who would see it, if I was taking a picture or something, would from a distance, oh, that's just a decal or whatever, or just won't even look at it. I don't know how often people look at the things that are on other people's phones. But if there's the opportunity to talk about, what are you passionate about? What are your interests? I'll have this with me. Don't give me credit for this idea. I have seen other lace makers do this. It's where I got the idea from. I love the thought that, I'm not going to immediately jump into my next one, but at any time, I could think about any kind of lace, any style lace that is this size, and I could switch it out. I mean, this is just laying in there. Pop off the cover, pop up, put in a new piece of lace, rotate a little traveling museum. And it just makes me think, and I'll just put this out there, this can work for any kind of stitching. If you have a small piece of cross stitch, I mean, you'd have to acknowledge that you'd have to cut close to the edges. It'd have to be this small. But once you got it in there, it's not like the edges would really fray. And then when you're tired of that one, switch it out for another one. And it's a way you could always have something that's important to you with you. And it shows, I mean, I know that I feel like there's probably someone who's created cases that have like holes in them or something, but you get a clear case for whatever kind of phone you have. You just have the ability to put anything you want underneath there. And I would think, I mean, I don't know how thick, I mean, of course it depends on how thick your threads are underneath and all that, blah, blah, blah. But I'll just put it out there. I could imagine the possibility of putting a little piece of stitching of any kind under there, particularly something that's small that you could always have with you. But that's my finish of bobbin lace that I wanted to share with all of you. I guess I'm talking about lace right now. So I'm pretty sure for the last 2, if not 3 videos I've had on my list, and then, as I'm looking at the time and trying to wind down, I'm like, yep, that's cut, already been talking too long. So I've had something on my list, like what I'm looking at right now, and I'm like, I'm going to get to it this video so I can really, really put it away. So on so many videos, on so many floss tubers, so many stitchers talk about stitching samplers and love it. And some people talk about reading about the history of samplers and what does it mean to be a sampler, and that's an interest I have in, what defines a piece to be a sampler. I'm not talking about like something from, how would I say this? If you were to look at a pattern, how do you decide that's a sampler? Does that make sense? The idea of a sampler being from a few hundred years ago and a schoolgirl doing a sampler of stitches, that's the origin of it. A lot of the samplers that we look at and say that's a sampler, it's not necessarily a sampler of stitches anymore. The meaning seems to have evolved and changed. totally fine. Well, samplers, the idea of a sampler of stitches version of the word, can certainly exist in other craft forms. And so I wanted to show you a piece of bobbin lace that I did that certainly, I don't want to say is a play on the word because it isn't, but it's a great sampler in that kind of form. So I'm going to hold up, this is just a piece of fabric so you can see it. Hold it this way. Now, technically, it's unfinished because you see all those squares and diamonds. There's supposed to be an alphabet there. There's exactly 26 of those. And so, and again, a great play on a sampler. Most samplers have alphabets. This design, I'll show where it came from. This is, yes, it's in French. No, I don't speak French. Dentelle is a lace in French. If you ever come across the word dentelle, pick it up. Tell me if it's anything that a book or anything. Tell me if it's something I'd be interested in. So you could see here. Oops. That's the, oh, so there's more than 26 because you could see there's like a little space there. But the idea is that there'd be a letter on each of those squares or diamonds, and that it really could be like a sampler in that respect. It is also a sampler in the respect of the bobbin lace in terms of the stitches that you got, and it's stitches in a different sense of the word, so to speak, than you might think of in terms of our like cross-stitch linen. But you could see here, for example, this is hard for me to hold this, like right here where my pinky is, that's called rose ground. These things are called spiders. These, which I hate to make, I've gotten better at. I made this a number of years ago, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it, but these are leaves. You just need to practice them. That's what everyone says. You just got to practice them. These are tallies. They're related to leaves. There's different grounds that are used within this. This was actually made, it's hard to picture, it actually didn't use a lot of bobbins at all because it was made, I'm trying to see which side it started. It started over here. And just like a strip, like this wide, the strip, turn the corner, do this row. Turn the corner, do this row. Like it was made in rows. And everywhere along the way, you have to connect the threads. Those are called sewings. But for any lace makers that are watching me, these were the easiest sewings in the world. So it's a sampler of different kinds of grounds and stitches. Now, I know when I finished it, I was going to stitch. I love the idea that it would combine my bobbin lace with my like stitching embroidery kind of work. I was going to stitch letters, and then was going to frame it. And I ran into this whole debate with myself about the letters. Notice in this picture, they're different colors. I thought, no, I want to do it all in one color, but like a variegated kind of thread. I had this idea of a blue variegated thread, and then I just, it came down to an indecision that it wasn't the highest priority, couldn't find the right thread. Oh, I'll wait till I go to a place where I can find some things, and just, it never happened. And I realized a few videos ago when I took it out from where it's been, bad me, I've had it folded, which I shouldn't. I should have like rolled it, which I'm going to do. I'm going to like lightly press it, and then I'm going to roll it until the point that I get over the indecision. Because I would definitely like to get that alphabet on there. And again, I still have this vision of an over-dyed, so there's some variation of a thread. So not do multiple colors. And then get it framed. I just think it's a neat combination of sampler, the word sampler and what it means. So I'm glad I've had the opportunity to share that with you. So I can stop putting it on my Flosstube list as it's been the last few times. And I think it was my last video, I had a comment, and it might have been Ingeborg. I I meant to check that before I started. I forgot. Sorry. So, Ingeborg, if it wasn't you, sorry, it's somebody who asked me about colored thread in Bobbin Lace. Have I ever used colored thread? Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know what pieces I have. Oh, I meant to take out. I meant to check, although I don't. I meant to check to see if I'd ever shown you guys this piece, which is a fairly recent piece, which I just think is a great example of how colored thread has such a neat effect. The original, the pattern of this, the threads it used was like white and like a dark ecru, like a white and a dirty white kind of thing. And to me, it was just like, that has the great potential if you put in a color there. And I just loved it. It's just a tape lace, and it was just, I did have both tapes going on at the same time, but I loved the effect and the look. Yeah, a lot of my lace I keep just like in a portfolio binder. Sure, something like this, I sort of would want to say, oh, I'll stick that in a frame and put it on the wall. It's a limited wall space, people. Maybe someday. I had this on the display in the display room at the lace convention last year. But the question about colored thread made me take out something I had done, a little like exploration. A couple years ago or so, I got on this question of what happens with variegated thread in Bobbin Lace. Does it, what kind of effect does it have? Now, obviously, that's going to vary greatly by what kind of pattern. So I had this idea, and I played it out a little bit, and then I got tired of it. So this was a pattern, just a basic tape. It just, goes around in a circle. And I had gotten this thread. This is a silk. It's a really interesting thread company. You might have seen it. I don't know if anyone's encountered this thread like in cross-stitch stores. The company called, Painter's Thread Collection. Tentaculum. They name all their colors by names of famous painters. So, like, this is their Kandinsky. And the idea is the color, it's all variegated, and it's supposed to be like the colors that artist tended to use. I mean, that's so, like, stereotypes because so many artists varied. But you could look up their website and see. And so then they have like silks and cottons and thicker threads and thin. Anyway, I had picked up just one of their threads, not having a clue what I would do with it. And then at one point I thought, could I do a little bit of bobbin lace with it? Because I love the color palette of this one. Here's what happened. Let me hold it against the white. And that doesn't show it very well. I'll take it out here. Is that, and that's still, put it against the white paper. Is that the beautiful variegation, at least in this bobbin, this pattern gets lost. Now, some of it has to do with the kind of stitching. So this is called half stitch. This is all in half stitch, which is to say that the threads change around a lot. If I had done this with either cross stitch or whole stitch, there might have been a very different effect. I don't know. But I wanted to play with this idea, so I did the same thing again. This is a thread. I wrote this down. And I couldn't find this spool, although I am sure I did not use the whole spool. I wrote down that it was made with Coats denim thread. And I want to believe, so this definitely looked variegated when it was on the spool. Okay? It doesn't really look variegated now. Then I also did this pattern with Caron water lilies. So if you know Caron threads, water lilies is their silk, and those are pretty variegated. Now this one held the variegation pretty clearly, but it didn't show up in a very, I want to say, eye-pleasing way, and that's just because it's not symmetrical. Like, you could see how the purples are showing up in, like, not very symmetrical way. I mean, this is water lilies carry nutmeg is the color, and so if you happen to have nutmeg or you want to look up what nutmeg looks like, I like nutmeg. I'm sure I like the spice nutmeg, but I must have liked nutmeg enough that when I was holding the skein, I bought a skein of it. Okay, so I just wanted to see what it looked like. So I know at one point I had this idea, I'm going to repeat this experiment with trying different. These were all done in half stitch. I'm going to try this in the different stitches, and I want to keep trying with different kinds of different kinds of threads, and I stopped after this. Now, that said, I do have this idea. They're sitting right here. I took them out. So about a year ago, it felt like nearly every Flosstube that you watched, somebody was talking about the Silky threads that the 12 weight or whatever they were called, that were claiming, at least on the packaging, that one thread was equivalent to 2 strands of DMC. And when most people experimented, they said, well, the coverage is okay. And that's just partially because it's one. So this is, and most people were showing the spools that you could buy that, I don't know how much yardage it was, but smaller spools than this. Like this looks like a big spool of sewing thread. I had the opportunity to be somewhere. I've been looking on like Silky website, where is it sold? I was somewhere where there was like a quilting store that had a pretty large display. I was able to go there, and what they had was like the full line, and so they had 12 weight, and the other weight, which is 30 weight, which is a finer thread. The larger the number, the finer the thread. And so I bought the 12 wanting to try this for cross stitching, and I was using this for a while on a 36 count over 1, which covered fairly decently. But I did buy the 30 weight for the sole purpose of at some point wanting to do a bobbin lace project. So you can see, I mean, there's variegation in there. And I still have the idea that I would love to do a bobbin lace project with it. Now, again, this was one experiment with one particular design one pattern, a very, very simple idea of a tape lace that really might not have been the best one to try. What will variegation look like? I have seen other people do bobbin lace with some beautiful colored threads that come out beautiful. I just haven't done enough experimenting with it. I've done, as I've shown you, some various threads, various lace pieces with colored thread. And again, this was just my time where I was curious about what would a variegated thread do. And for this particular pattern, it didn't do anything that looked stunning to me. But I do have some ideas of what I wanted to try with this thread. I just haven't made them happen yet. So, that's just about all I was going to talk about today. And I'm glad this is not a super duper long one for today. So there's a lot coming up in the next couple of weeks in life. I have lots to look forward to, and I will look forward to sharing with all of you after the retreat lots of pieces that came from that. I'm sure you'll see it on some other Flosstubers videos, because in all honesty, I'm a little worried that I'm going to remember to take video and pictures during the retreat, and I'm going to need to count on others to do so for me. I hope that all of you who are doing things like Stitch Mania are having fun with it. It's not my kind of thing to start, 18 projects in 18 days or even one project a week. But I know there's lots of videos coming out of people who are enjoying it. And, as someone who firmly believes in stitch what you enjoy and inspire others, I hope that's what's going on right now. As always, I so appreciate everyone that comes by for a visit. I so appreciate this community and everything that everyone gives to it. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your day today. And until next time.